Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So patch 6.24 has been out for about a week now, and also just recently Camille officially got released to the public. But with all these new changes in a new patch and even the new ranked season starting all in the past week or so, it definitely begs the question, what are the current strongest or most OP or Freelo type champions to play in most of the roles? Or in other words, which champions are the ones that I should be looking out for, banning, and hoping that they're on my team? So I'm hoping that this video gives you that information and you can continue your grind whether you're playing normals, whether you're playing ranked for the new season 7, and be successful. Now this video is going to be made in collaboration with Pro Guides, a very familiar name where they have a website that tries to improve your overall gameplay. I have a link to them down below in the description below for a free trial, and I highly recommend checking them out, especially with the new ranked season just started. But with all that said and done, let's get right into the very first champion that I want to talk to you guys about that I feel like is a must pick or ban and is just exceptionally strong at the moment. And that champion is going to be Vi, of course Vi in the jungle. She's got several indirect buffs, obviously nothing specifically towards her, but just how the meta is currently shaping and there's a lot of fairly squishy champions, she is able to just jump in there, annihilate someone's face extremely easily, especially with someone like Twitch being a very strong ADC at the moment and Vayne even, and she is just very good currently. She's got a great jungle clear, she's got solid ganks as well, and just her ultimate is made to just easily get onto a target and kill them. So if you're someone that's been playing normals or ranked, I'd be pretty surprised if you were to tell me that you have never seen a Vi in the past week or so, because she is very strong. But if you decide to play her, then here's my recommended build. You want to go for that warrior enchantment, and you want to go roughly just full AD up until you get maybe the Triforce, the warrior enchantment, and even something like Knight's Edge. And for her masteries, you can see I have two different trees. One of them is being the Courage of the Colossus option, where if you feel like you can rely on your team and you think someone on your team is actually going to play well and maybe even carry the game, Courage of the Colossus is just better of an initiator type ability to get the team fights going and to have your backline carries do their thing. But if you feel like you're the one that has to be doing the hard carry, Thunderlords is the better option to have that earlier to mid game kind of burst damage and to help your snowball. But let's move into champion number 2, Kha'Zix, yet another jungler. Personally, Kha'Zix is my actual go-to jungle champion because he is very strong as well, just like Vi and the other jungle champion I'll talk about soon. But upgrading his new ultimate just gives you so many sweet options when it comes to counter jungling or even ganking through lanes by sneaking into the bushes. He has that reset with his E ability still, which is just fantastic. And if you decide to upgrade his Q first, well, you can probably go ahead and solo dragon very early. Kha'Zix is arguably one of the best junglers at the moment next to Vi and the other jungle champion I'll be talking about, so again, just like Vi, if you haven't seen Kha'Zix very frequently, then I would be very surprised. All in all, great wave clear, fantastic ganks, has a lot of teamfight potential as well, can carry the games extremely hard, and just overall fits the current meta. So if you decide to play some Kha'Zix, then this is my recommended build. Also going for that warrior enchantment, usually getting the blue smite, and you want to go ahead and get some more damage like the Duskblade, which works perfectly well with your ultimates. You want to get maybe something like a black cleaver for that CDR and just the overall penetration, and then you want to slowly start transitioning into those tanky items while opting out for that Thunderlords. When it comes to upgrading his abilities with his ultimate, personally I like to upgrade his ultimate first because it gives you a lot of counter jungling potential and you can do some really cool ganks. But if you want, you can just go for the Q as it's overall an easier upgrade. But either way, you almost always want to upgrade your E ability at level 11 and then the other one, whether it's your Q or your ultimate, at level 16. And then in the number 3 spot, we also have Lee Sin, yet another very popular and currently very strong jungler. Out of the 3 I've mentioned so far, I've probably been seeing Lee Sin most frequently, whether it comes to actually being in the game or being banned. And the reason is pretty much the exact same. He fits the meta. He has an insane amount of damage when you just go over the first 2 damage items like Warrior and also Black Cleaver, maybe even a team ad if you really want to. But he also has great wave clear for the jungle. He's got solid ganking potential, probably one of the best of the 3 if anything. And this guy can just easily hard carry games. But the only downside to Lee Sin of the 3 so far is the fact that he's probably the most difficult, and the second half of the game, unless you're very experienced as a champion, will prove to be difficult. But either way, if you want someone that can really truly snowball at the beginning and have insane amount of pressure, look no further because Lee Sin is your go-to pick. So let's take a look at what kind of Lee Sin build you want to follow. Very similar to Vi, you want to get a couple of damage items first, so maybe like Warriors and Black Cleaver, and then you want to transition into more tanky type items, maybe like Deadman's, maybe Knight's Edge, Guardian's Angel, and things like that. But let's take a break from talking about jungle champions and move all the way down to the bottom lane, where I want to talk about 2 ADCs, and I feel like you guys already know which ones I want to talk about. but regardless, the first of which is definitely Vayne. Now this patch, Vayne actually did get some nerfs to her Q where it just simply doesn't scale as hard, but, and I said this even when I was talking about the actual nerf itself, it doesn't feel like it's enough. I mean, yeah, it's obviously a nerf and yeah, it will lower her power, but by how much? Well, clearly not that much because she is still very strong, still very popular, and she can easily still hard carry games. The Static Shift Infinity Edge combo on her with that Q ability is still just abysmally strong, and it really feels like that nerf almost didn't really do anything at all. So Vayne is without question still one of those champions that personally I would ban 100% and would be really scared if she's on the enemy team because she is literally a ticking time bomb. If you win the game quickly, then yeah, you'll probably make her useless. But if you take too long, if you don't snowball the game fast enough, and if you don't just get your lead going well enough, well, you're gonna give Vayne a lot of time. And if you give her too much time, she will get to that point where it's almost impossible to kill her while she's 3-shotting almost everyone on your team. So without question, this champion is still abysmally strong and will most likely require some more nerfs. But regardless, if you decide to pick up Vayne, then here's the recommended build. You want to go for Warlord's Bloodlust because her laning phase is still somewhat subpar, even though I don't feel like it's as bad as it should be, but the Warlords will definitely help you get through it. And the build is still pretty much the same. You want to go for that Static Shift Infinity Edge combo, obviously your Zerka boots, and then just get more of those assassin type items like Phantom Dancer, maybe even a Runaan's Hurricane if you really want to, but after your first few items, Vayne will just do the work for you. But speaking of extremely strong ADCs, there's yet another one that we have to also talk about because, well, if he's on the enemy team, just like Vayne, he is very much a ticking time bomb. Twitch. Granted, he's definitely a little bit easier to kill than Vayne and just to actually get on top of and just burst him down, but if you let him alone, this guy can do twice as much damage as Vayne in about half the time. I don't know how many times, whether the Twitch is on my team or the enemy team, we've let the game maybe last up to 40 minutes, and then that one team fight happens, the Twitch appears from the side somewhere, pops his ultimate, has that Runaan's Hurricane, and just goes to town. He annihilates every single person, and he does it in literally a matter of seconds. This guy is very strong. I promise you right now, he is extremely strong, and just like Vayne, you should be scared if he's on the enemy team, and you should always try to finish off the game as fast as possible, or you're just giving them time to get to the point where they will kill you in just seconds. But I feel like that's enough reason to give you guys to understand why Twitch is just so abysmally overpowered at the moment, so without further ado, let's get into his build. Runaan's Hurricane, Infinity Edge. This thing combined with his ultimate is more than enough to already just destroy anyone's face, and following this you just want to stack it up and make the damage even higher. Static Shift or Phantom Dancer are both great options, and then you want to get lifesteal using the Bloodthirster. And with the damage that you're dishing out late game, that Warlord's Bloodlust is gonna scale so well that it's gonna give you so much lifesteal that you'll almost be kind of tanky. But enough of bot lane, let's go all the way back up to the top lane, and this time I want to talk about the newest champion to League of Legends, Camille. Now granted, she's only been out for just a couple of days, I have to say she is overpowered. She is very, very strong. If someone that's already played enough games with her and understands her can play against you, well, he will be doing an absurd amount of damage, gap closing from about half of the map, and ulting your ADC and pretty much rendering them useless. I promise you this champion is very strong, so you don't want to risk passing it along to someone that knows how to play her, or on the other hand, you also don't really want someone on your team picking her up and playing her for the first or second time and maybe not really doing all that well and not really having any idea what the hell they're doing. So she's almost like a Yasuo, where if the Yasuo is on the enemy team, then they're just gonna annihilate your face. If they're on your team, they're just gonna feed up a storm. So better play it safe and just ban her out. Unless of course you're the Camille prodigy sitting on your team and you're the one that wants to play her in the top lane or maybe even in the jungle. But either way, I truly believe she is a very, very strong champion, and I personally would not want to risk facing someone that knows how to play her. Now when it comes to the build for Camille, then here's what I recommend. You want to go for that Fervor because she just simply relies on her auto attacks and she works off of auto attacks really well. And the build is going to be revolving around something similar to getting a Triforce and a Ravenous Hydra for that initial burst damage and just to win your laning phase, and then transitioning into the tanky options like a Sterak's, a Deadman's, maybe a Knight's Edge, a Guardian's Angel, or even a Black Cleaver if you decide to maybe combine it with a Triforce, or just essentially not get Triforce but the Black Cleaver instead. It really just depends on your team comp and just how you really want to play her and how confident you're feeling. But the second last champion I want to talk to you guys about before two honorable mentions is in the mid lane, and without surprise, it is going to be LeBlanc. LeBlanc has one of the scariest laning phases in the entire game for mid lane just because of how much damage she can dish out at level 3. Once she gets all of her abilities, if she lands that E on you and if she ignites you, you better be flashing or using some sort of defensive summoner because you will die. Her E ability combined with her passive and the ignite is going to probably do just about half damage already, plus combined with of course her Q ability and even her W, well, chances are you're probably going to be taking a lot of damage, and there's a very high chance of giving her first blood, and that's not what you want to do. On top of this, there's a lot of really crazy things that she can do in team fights. For instance, if you get the opportunity to actually W maybe 3 to 5 people on the enemy team and then take it back, wait for that passive to build up and throw your Q, well, that Q right there most likely already won you the team fight. Now, granted, this situation is a little bit difficult to pull off. If it ever does happen, I promise you this will be the game decider. She's also very strong when it comes to just going to the backline and killing a squishy, which is something LeBlanc has always excelled at, but she's still very much good at it. All in all, LeBlanc is just still LeBlanc. You don't want to face her, she's very scary, and she's very easy to snowball off of because of the amount of lane pressure she can offer. So you better either ban her, play her on your team, or just hope that no one on the enemy team picks her. But regardless, here's my recommended items and builds and all that good stuff for LeBlanc. Morello's without question is your first item, and then you can either go Abyssal Scepter or Luden's Echo, just depends on the matchup. And then you want to follow that up with the typical AP items like a Zhonya's, a Void Staff, a Rabadon's, Sork Boots. But everything else should be more or less straightforward. Now the last but definitely not least champion that I want to talk about before I talk about the 2 honorable mentions very quickly is back into the jungle, Mr. Ivern. This guy also received some nerfs very recently to his E ability in terms of how much it's slowing, but even though that was a decent hit, clearly I don't think it's enough. I still see Ivern banned very frequently, and whenever he's not banned, he's usually picked up if those other guys are not picked up already, like Vi, Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, because this guy, even though he doesn't necessarily hard carry, he can be extremely annoying and he can easily tilt you as well with just how Daisy works, his Q ability, and his E. He's just one of those champions that brings this sort of awkward dynamic to the game that no one really wants to deal with because of how annoying it is. So if you don't want to have a game where things are just very confusing and awkward, then Ivern is without question the champion you want to make sure is either banned or at least is on your team. But regardless, here's my recommended build for Ivern, a very kind of AP to supporty sort of items with the Redemption, the Athenes, Locket of the Iron Solari, and things like that. Now, just before I end off this video, there are 2 very quick honorable mentions. The first of which is going to be Shaco. Now, there's a new hybrid Shaco build going around, which is just abysmally strong, and I've seen some people do an insane amount of work with it. Now, granted, I did try this out in one of my Journey to Master episodes, and it didn't really work out super well, but that's because I literally had no idea what the hell I was doing on Shaco. So, even if I was playing another build, the same thing would have happened. But trust me, if you find someone that one-trick Shaco or that is fairly experienced with this champion and runs this hybrid build, you better be scared. And the other honorable mention is going to be Ziggs, a champion that I've personally been pulling out for the mid lane very frequently and have been having a lot of success. The amount of poke you can do with Luden's Echo is so strong that it feels almost unfair to play against. And on top of this, with the Lich Bane, his passive, and his W, he can do about 75% of the tower's damage just by himself in just about 2 or 3 seconds. But either way, guys, I mean, that is about it for this video. There you have it, the strongest and Freelo type champions for the patch of 6.24. I hope this video has been informative and gave you some insight into what you should be playing, what you should be watching out for, and if it did, make sure to hit it with that like button, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, share this video with your friends, but I hope to see you for my next video. Peace.